Hi, I'm Eve with The Baby's Booty. When it comes to being a new embroiderer, it can be quite intimidating. So let's take all of the stigma away and go ahead and cover a lot of the basics that you'll need to know when you're starting on your journey to being an embroiderer. If you stick around to the very end, I will tell you what my number one tool is that every embroidery shop should have. Before we get started, let me point out that we will be doing these in a specific order, and down in the description below it will give you the list of the different things that we'll be covering so that you can either fast forward to something you want to know more about or have that description as a refresher if the issue comes up and you need to remember what it was that we said. So check the description below for the list, the timestamp of where you can find the information on certain points. Embroidery machines come in all shapes, sizes, and prices. So you have your home single needle machines, home multi-needle machines, as well as industrial embroidery machines. So with all of these to choose from, let's break them down. The home single needle machine can range from $300 all the way up to a couple of $1,000s. It's lightweight, made for home projects, and it can go from size 4x4 all the way up to much larger sizes. It's an excellent machine for those starting out and wanting to get into embroidery. Home multi-needle embroidery machines can range from 6 needles to 12 needles. It's a awesome machine to have to learn how to use the multi-needle machine, but it can set you back quite a few $1,000s. The industrial multi-needle embroidery machine is a powerhouse. Surprisingly, it is the same price as the home multi-needle machines, but with a lot more needles and a lot more strength. This machine is made for the toughest embroidery jobs, and it can be used in the home as well. So this machine is well worth its price tag, and it will help with an embroidery business. The first topic that we are going to tackle in this list is stabilizers. Stabilizers is one of the biggest questions that I get on a regular basis. Which stabilizer do I need, and why is it important? Embroidery stabilizer comes in many different rolls as well as pre-cut squares. Embroidery stabilizer is very important, and it will come in different lengths to accommodate the hoop sizes that you may have with your machine. You can find embroidery stabilizer to purchase at most fabric stores. A lot of times they're in these blister packs like these and easy to find. Let's review our rolls of stabilizer. So it allows you to roll off the amount of stabilizer that you will need with your project. When you use a roll of stabilizer, you unroll it and you would use the hoop to gauge just how much stabilizer you'll need. The cool thing about the roll of stabilizer is that it will fit with just about any hoop that you may have within that certain width of stabilizer. Stabilizer can also be purchased in pre-cut squares. That makes it convenient for your smaller hoops, or if you know that you generally use that size hoop on a frequent basis, you can get the pre-cut squares. Now, this particular stabilizer is a cutaway stabilizer already in a pre-cut square, and a black cutaway stabilizer as well in a pre-cut square. And the pre-cut squares are awesome, especially for the 4x4 embroidery machines. You can use the pre-cut squares simply and get through your projects faster by just laying the pre-cut square on your hoop and pressing it into place along with your project, of course. However, it's easy to do. It's drum tight once it's in there like it's supposed to be, and that's just how simple it can be by utilizing the pre-cut squares. Different types of stabilizer are available, like for instance, this is your cutaway. You can't tear it apart. Then you have your tearaway stabilizer, which as you can see is easy to tear apart. So those are good for certain projects. Then you have your fusible stabilizer. The fusible has a glue on the back that's shiny, and then the top side is dull, so you know which side is the side to put face down and press to the back of a garment. They have it in white, they also have it in black, and these are great for stretchy like t-shirt fabrics or polo shirts. Those are great to fuse to the backs of those types of shirts. Another stabilizer is water soluble stabilizer. This water soluble stabilizer is used as a topper, and as you can see, it's clear. You can see straight through it. So this is what you would use on top of towels or thick plush fabrics that you want to hold the pile down on. Now there's also another water soluble stabilizer that's milky white. You can see through it a little bit, but this is for like freestanding lace type projects that you want to be held together and use afterwards. So they look similar, but the clearer one is the one that you want to use as a topper, and that lighter one is the one that we want to use for freestanding lace type projects. Next is our sticky stabilizer. The sticky stabilizer is used with our fast frames. So you tear off the size that you need for your fast frames, and then you just peel the pieces apart. Once you can get them apart, that is. When you peel it apart, it will show that you have a sticky side on one, and the other side you just throw it away. So the sticky side is what we're going to use to adhere to the back of a fast frame. So you would take a fast frame, which as this one is well worn, as you can see, and press it to the sticky stabilizer. All right, now this piece is a little too big, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of trimming. And once you trim away the excess, if you have to, you just fold it over onto the frame, and that helps it hold onto the frame to keep it from coming off. And then there's your sticky surface that you would stick the fabric to. So let's get a piece of fabric and I'll show you. You just lay it on top, and then once you smooth it in place, you can embroider on it. You don't have to worry about the fabric moving around. So this is excellent for your in the hoop projects and other projects like that. The really large rolls of stabilizer, of course, are made for the super large hoops that you find, especially with the industrial machines, and they can sometimes be perforated already in their set sizes, kind of like a pre-cut square. So here is a piece, and you see that this specific stabilizer is cutaway stabilizer. It's pre-cut already, and I'm going to show you the size hoop that would go with this jumbo stabilizer. And as you see, this is a really large hoop that comes with that red line embroidery machine, and this stabilizer fits it almost perfectly. So this is the type of hoop that you would use with this size stabilizer. In addition to the different types of stabilizers, colors of stabilizers, sizes of stabilizers, there are also different weights of stabilizers. So you have some that are thick, like a heavy, thick stabilizer, and you also have really lightweight stabilizers. You also have another thickness of the water soluble stabilizer called Badge Master that you can use to make patches or really dense freestanding lace designs. So there's all different types, but the thing with stabilizer is you just have to understand how important it really is to your embroidery. Our fabric was not made to hold stitches, those extra stitches. It adds bulk to the fabric that we wear. So the stabilizer, all it is just an extra layer of protection to ensure that your embroidery stitches lay nice and smooth and last for a long time to come. One of the things that people tend to try to do is go with the fastest route, and they'll use the tearaway stabilizer because it's easy. You embroider, you put this under, you put the shirt on top or whatever it is on top, embroider your stuff, and then you just tear the back of it away from the embroidery, and you don't have to worry about cutting anything out or having embroidery stabilizer showing on the back of your garment. And I understand that. However, in order to make sure that your embroidery looks the best for many, many years to come, especially on t-shirt fabrics, shirt fabrics, cotton fabrics, fabrics that you're going to wash over and over and over again, you definitely want to invest in some cutaway stabilizer. That's what this is for. This will last. All right. The reason why, have you ever washed a garment with embroidery on it and it comes out looking wrinkled and crinkled? That's because it wasn't stabilized properly. You definitely need to understand, if you go to walk across a bridge, you want to make sure that that bridge is stable. Likewise, your embroidery really needs to have that stability to look the best that it possibly can. Yes, you can embroider on shirts, on jackets, on towels with tearaway stabilizer. You can, and it will embroider just fine for the most part, unless it's a really dense design. Really dense designs will eat the stabilizer up, and you'll wind up getting bird's nest and things like that down in the embroidery machine. So if you're having issues with using tearaway stabilizer, the design is probably too dense for that specific stabilizer. Of course, the final choice is up to you, but if you go based off of what the experts suggest, cutaway stabilizer is for garments and things that you're going to wash. So if you're going to wear it, please don't tear it. And there's a lot of folks out there that don't like that saying, but that saying has saved me a lot of trouble through my years of doing embroidery. So keep that in mind. Use your cutaway stabilizer for worn garments so that they'll last a long time. The next topic we'll get into is needles. Your embroidery needles are extremely important. Let's find out why. Now, I have talked about needles before several times, and it can be quite confusing. As you see, there's so many different types of needles that you can use with your embroidery machine. As a matter of fact, with the exception of this one, all of these needles can be used in your home embroidery machine. So knowing that all of these needles will fit, how do you know which needle you need to use with your project? All right, so let's go over some basics that should help you get the answer you need for your next project. Well, we are going to start with universal needles. Okay, so when you go into Walmart or Joann's or even Michael's or Hobby Lobby, they carry universal sewing needles for your sewing machine. The reason these are called universal, of course, is because they will work with a sewing machine or your embroidery machine. All right, and notice it says universal. This one says Microtex sharp needle. So either one of these will work with your embroidery machine. And then after we go over the different types of needles that work with the embroidery machine, we'll go over these numbers down here at the bottom, the size, and we'll explain what that's all about. But the first thing I want to do is go over the different types of needles that are available. So if you are out of needles and your needles break in your embroidery machine, yes, you can purchase these. You can use the universal, you can use the Microtex, and it will still work with your embroidery project. Now, are these the best needles to use for the embroidery project? Not really, but we'll also go into, there's two different types of needles. There's the sharp needles and then there's ballpoint, and we'll go into that in a moment. But these will do in a pinch. If you don't have access to your normal set of needles, this will work. Okay, so you can embroider with these. The next set of needles that you want to keep in mind for your project are these guys here. Okay, and these are your stretch needles or you see it says jersey needle. And then in some instances you'll see where some needles will actually say ballpoint, like this particular pack of needles here. It has that these are this is a ballpoint sample needle that was given. So you can use a ballpoint or stretch or jersey knit, and it's the same thing. Okay, so what is the deal with the jersey, stretch, or ballpoint needle? Well, just like the last needle I mentioned, ballpoint, the needle of the point of these are not super sharp. Okay, so the point of these needles, although you can't tell with the naked eye, you cannot tell, but there's a rounded point on this needle. Okay, what that rounded point does is it keeps from putting holes in stretchy material. So that's why this is called a stretch needle, and that's why this one is called jersey needle, because it's for jersey knit fabric. Jersey knit fabric is like this t-shirt material out of my sleeve here. See how it's stretching? So it's that stretch material that if you use a regular sharp needle, like the universal needles I showed at first, they will put holes in your fabric. Does that mean that you can't use the regular universal needles to embroider with if you don't have any ballpoint, or if you can't find ballpoint at the store? Well, technically you can use these with jersey knit and stretch material, technically. But what you may find will happen is over time, or even while you're embroidering, you'll notice big holes in the material, the stretch material that you're using to embroider on. So this is the best. I would not recommend not having jersey knit stretch needles for your jersey or stretch projects. So you should always have a pack, couple of packs of these jersey stretch needles on hand. All right, so it can say jersey, it can say stretch, it can say ballpoint, doesn't matter. As long as it's one of those three, you can keep some of these on hand for those specialty stretch fabric materials. The other needles that are out there, before I get to my favorites, which are up here, we're gonna go over some of the specialty needles that are out there. So we have jeans or denim needles. These are leather needles here in this pack. These are anti-glue needles. So when we were discussing the sticky stabilizer with the stabilizers I was showing you guys, this pack of needles could work really well with that. Or if you're using spray adhesive with your project, this could work, this anti-glue needle. So these are available. And there's also titanium needles, which titanium, just as the name states, they're coated with titanium, and so therefore they last longer when you're using them for your embroidery projects. So needles generally, the standard time frame life of a needle for embroidery is 8 hours. That's your standard basic time frame for all of these needles that are not titanium. The titanium needles last a lot longer, twice as long if I'm remembering correctly. So titaniums are more expensive, but they are well worth it because they last longer. But what you have to realize is, with all that stitching that you're doing, is so much stitching in one place, these needles wear out really quickly. So you want to get some good quality needles. You want to invest in a large pack of needles so that you won't run out as quickly, because needles break. And we'll go over, I'll touch on something else to keep in mind with these needles here in a moment. So let's move these out of the way and I can show you the best needles to use for your embroidery projects. So the better needles to use would be these guys here, and you can interchange them, it doesn't matter, they both operate just about the same way. So there's a top stitch needle and then there's a metallic needle. What makes these needles so special? What's the difference? What's the big deal? So I put these 3 needles and all I did was tape them to some black stabilizer so that you can see. And I'm going to come really close to the camera and take a look at the holes, at the eyes of these needles. See how this one is really small, and then you go a little bit bigger, and then look at how large the hole is with that needle. The big difference between the 3. So this larger hole, the larger eye, gives the embroidery thread more room to move around, keep from getting tangled or twisted up or shredded. So this is the better needle to use for embroidery. So as a bonus, these top stitch needles are excellent needles to use for metallic thread. So the metallic needle and the top stitch needle both have those large eyes in these needles. So you can use this for embroidery and for your metallic thread for those special projects. The top stitch needle and interchangeably the metallic needle is the all-around better option for embroidery projects. You have to keep in mind that that needle is puncturing that fabric at sometimes upwards of 900 stitches per minute. That's a lot of friction, that's a lot of heat. So all of that friction on that thread, if it doesn't have enough room to move around, if it's cramped and trying to go in and out of that fabric at such high rates of speed, you're asking for thread breaks. You're asking for threads to shred. So you want to give that thread room to move around and get those stitches laid out nice and gorgeous. That top stitch needle with the large eye is the better option. The final question about your needle choice is the size of the needle. So one of the things that you'll notice on the packages of needles, just like you see here at the very bottom, it says 7511. So that 75 at the top stands for 0.75 millimeters, and the 11 is just the US measurement of the needle. So 75 and the 11 just mean the exact same thing, and that's talking about the thickness of the actual needle or the gauge of the needle. So this one is 0.75 millimeters thick, and that's why the denim, that's why the denim needle says 100. That's because it needs, that thick denim needs a thicker needle to penetrate in order to make sure you don't have a lot of needle breaks with denim fabric. All right, so 7511, 8012, 9014, and this is 116. Both the numbers mean the exact same thing. The gauge of the needle, the thicker the gauge, the thicker the fabrics that you can use it with. Now for myself, I generally use a 9014 needle with all of my embroidery, and I use the 9014 top stitch needle. Our next topic is going to be about embroidery thread. Your embroidery thread choice is just as important as the right stabilizer and the right needle for your project. Why is that the case? Well, embroidery thread is made specifically for the high speed and the high heat of embroidery with the embroidery machine. So the embroidery thread is made out of usually polyester or a rayon type of material. Why is that important? Well, if you use a regular sewing thread, like for instance this serger thread right here, if you take a look closely at this cone of thread, you'll see that there are fibers that are all over this thread, like a fuzz almost. Because the embroidery machine is running at such a high rate of speed and embroidering through fabric, it's shredding or shedding these fibers off of this cone of thread. The problem with that is when you're embroidering on fabric, the fabric itself is going to shed fibers as it's being embroidered. So if you combine the fabric's shedding and the shedding of this thread, that's a lot of lint that's going to accumulate down in the bottom of your embroidery machine. That's going to add to the heat of the embroidery machine, which could cause damage to your machine. And it also can cause thread breaks because all of that lint piling up in the machine is going to damage something in that machine, and it's going to cause you problems with your embroidery. So another thing you want to keep in mind if you're having issues with your embroidery projects, you're breaking threads, or the embroidery just isn't coming out well, check down in where your bobbin case is and make sure there's not a lot of lint down in there. But going back to the embroidery thread, it's made so that it won't shed. As you see, this is a very smooth spool of thread. You don't see very many fibers at all sticking up off of this spool of embroidery thread, this cone rather. So that being the case, this is ideal for using with high-speed machine embroidery. So yes, you definitely want to find embroidery thread. Now, the next question is, do you absolutely have to have embroidery thread, polyester or rayon, in order to do embroidery? Well, you can do embroidery with regular sewing thread. You can do it. However, doing it over the long term can, as I mentioned, cause a lot of buildup in the bottom of your machine, and you don't want to cause long-term damage. So if you do use regular thread, you want to use it very, very sparingly. And honestly, I wouldn't use it at all. So your embroidery thread, where can you purchase it? Joann's Fabrics and Crafts. A lot of your quilting stores, they will have cones of embroidery thread that you can purchase. Any store where you purchase embroidery machines, you also can find embroidery thread to purchase. However, we here at The Baby's Booty use Metro EMB. Metro EMB is online and their prices are amazing. So they have gorgeous colors that you can choose from in order to pick out for your embroidery projects. They send you this color card where you can look at all the different colors that are available and order them online. They do take PayPal as well. So if you wanted to order thread, these guys are awesome and they'll get it right out to you. And again, their prices are amazing. They also create a thread called Glide, where it's made like butter to go through your embroidery machine. And they also offer metallic threads that are absolutely gorgeous as well. So give those guys a check out, metroemb.com. The next thing I would like to touch on is going to target especially the super beginners. All right, number one, you want to be sure that when you hoop your project, now I know right now this is just the fabric, there's no stabilizer with it, but what you want to look for is you want it to be kind of tight. I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds kind of like a drum. You don't want this super tight to where you can't flex it at all, but you definitely want it to be pretty taut. You want it smooth. You don't want wrinkles. This is ideal. This is what you want to achieve when you are hooping a project. The downside is when you're hooping a stretchy fabric, you also don't want to stretch the fabric either. So there's a fine line with stretchy fabrics and hooping them to keep from having them stretch as you put them in the hoop. So you kind of just want to lay the fabric there and then apply the inner ring to lock it in place, but try diligently not to stretch it, because if you stretch that fabric, then embroider on it, when that fabric comes back to a relaxed state, it will pucker and wrinkle around that stretched fabric. So you definitely don't want to do that. Another thing I would like to point out, especially for the small embroidery machines for home use, you are not limited to the size hoop that you have. Okay, so there are aftermarket hoops that you can purchase that will help you with doing embroidery projects. So for instance, there is a magnetic hoop that you can purchase to go with these smaller machines. I do have all of this that I'm talking about is in the link for the Amazon store, affiliate store that I have in the description below. There's a magnetic hoop that's available. There's also a hat hoop that is available for these smaller machines. There are even larger hoops available for the smaller machines. Like this specific hoop is made for the 4x4 embroidery machine. You definitely need to check your model numbers before buying these hoops. So this is the only largest hoop that you can purchase for the 4x4 embroidery machine. And then the 5x7 embroidery machine, there is only one type of larger hoop that you can purchase for that machine. Now, if you get these larger hoops, these are called repositional hoops. So before purchasing them, definitely check out the video that I'm linking right here above that will tell you how to use repositional hoops. You will need a software program to help you achieve what you're trying to do with these repositional hoops, but they can expand your horizons and you're not limited just to your either 4x4 or 5x7. Let's talk about those extra little things that can make life easier in your studios. One of the simplest things I can mention right now is pencil grips. I don't know if you remember in school putting a pencil grip on the pencil to help make the pencil more comfortable to hold. Well, if you purchase a pack of those, you can cut them in half and add them to the thumb screws on your hoops, and it helps make the grips a lot easier to turn to adjust the tension on these hoops. So pencil grips are really cool to use. You can get them from Dollar Tree and you can cut them in half, add them to your screws, and it saves our fingers from a lot of pain. You want to find some kind of way to oil your machine. Now, when you purchase your embroidery machine, no matter what embroidery machine you get, it will come with a little container of oil. So definitely oil your machine, otherwise it wouldn't come with oil. And you can also get a little pen oiler like this one here off of the link in the description, and this will help you make it a little bit easier to get into those nooks and crannies because of the fine tip of the oiler pen. Also, here are some little brushes. Now these are not, I don't think, in my Amazon store. I'll have to check and see, but I got these little brushes from Harbor Freight, and what they do is they get down really good in where the bobbin case is and where your bobbin is, and it will help pull some of that lint out, and you can brush it out and help keep the inside of your embroidery machine nice and tidy. So I don't know if you were able to see that very well. There are 5 of them, and they're 5 different sizes, and they're on like a little ring, so it helps keep them all together. And you can use these to keep the inside of your embroidery machine clean. Now these also look like makeup brushes, right, for your eyelashes. So if you can find some eyelash brushes, you can use those as well. Another really important part of every studio, sewing studio, embroidery studio, is scissors. So with embroidery, it's no different. You definitely want to invest in some small curved scissors like these. These help cut those pesky jump threads that are a part of every embroidery project, and also help with trimming and things along those lines. These are some really important scissors to have. And also, at some point in time, usually every embroiderer does applique, and these scissors are great for doing applique. A lot of folks get frustrated doing applique because they say that it's not easy to do. Well, with the right applique scissors, they are a breeze to do applique. Okay, so definitely check these guys out there in the store as well. Another tool from the Dollar Tree that would be good to have in your studio is just a craft blade. Why would that be the case? Unfortunately, you are going to have bird nests at some point in time in your embroidery, and that's where the thread just jams all the way up. Your project gets stuck to the bottom of the embroidery machine, and you're like really upset trying to figure how you're going to get that hoop off because the thread is holding that hoop down to the embroidery machine. Well, if you take one of these craft knives and you extend it all the way out just like so, and then you can use that to slide that knife in underneath that hoop and cut away those pesky threads that are holding the hoop in place, and then you can free your project and then take your time and clean those extra threads out of the bottom of your embroidery machine. Now you definitely want to take the bobbin out and then clean the rest of those threads out if you ever have to use this method, because there will be extra bulky threads down in there that's causing that problem. So make sure you clean all those out. Grab your brushes, clean all of that out, but then this knife is what will help come to the rescue and save the day. Now that we've reached the very last thing that I feel is the most important thing you should have in your embroidery studio, please let me know in the comments below if there's anything else you find that's super important to have in your embroidery studio to help others who are just starting out. So please feel free to leave a comment in the description below of what you have found that I might have overlooked that is important to have in your embroidery studio. So for the final number one thing that I feel every embroidery studio should have is this little gadget right here. Now it's well worn, so it's hard to see the name of it, but this is what's called a Peggy's Stitch Eraser, and it looks like a regular men's beard trimmer maybe. Well, the thing is, this is much sharper than a men's beard trimmer. So you use this on the back of the embroidery project that's been ruined. Use this, shave those threads away, pick the stitches out, and there you have a fresh slate to go ahead and try the project again and save yourself a lot of stress or replacement. So this, I feel like every embroidery studio should have. It is about $70 if I'm not mistaken, but this thing has saved me hundreds of dollars in replacing items. So definitely invest in one of these as soon as you possibly can. And there's a link, should be a link up above that shows how to actually use this. I do have a video showing how to use the Peggy Stitch Eraser, so check that out if you're curious. But this is definitely the number one thing every embroidery studio should have, and yes, it is for sure in the links below in the Amazon affiliate store, so check that out. So thank you for joining me in this video today, helping you guys out who are new to embroidery. If you are interested, we also have a hoop group that you're welcome to join at my website, thebabiesbooty.com. You can sign up there and you can share some of the projects that you've been working on or ask any questions you may have about embroidery or embroidery related projects. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to this channel. We often put out videos that are quite helpful to show you of the many different aspects of embroidery and how you can overcome obstacles or find some products that better fit you in your embroidery studios. So I appreciate you taking out your time to watch this video, and until the next time we see you, we hope you have happy embroidering.